Coming to you from our studios in Belize City, this is a late edition of the evening news on Love Television for today, Tuesday, June 7. We will get started with the leading stories for today. Minister of Education Patrick Faber sworn in as Deputy Prime Minister. Minister Godwin Hulls confronts colleagues over reported demands. Evening shooting reported in Belize City. OAS investigation into shooting of Guatemalan miner is in progress. And Fisheries Department makes bust of Hecate turtles. Yesterday, we told you of Belize being represented in Cuba by the former Deputy Prime Minister Gaspar Vega and Foreign Minister Seti Elrington. That meeting saw Vega carrying out his last deed as the Deputy Prime Minister in delivering a speech that caught Guatemalan President Jimmy Morales off guard as Vega spoke of the aggression by Guatemala, which could lead to discord in the region. Today, Elrington addressed the matter, saying that such a bold move is nothing new that has been done.
The Ministry of Foreign Affairs is made up of a number of very talented professionals who literally put together everything that we say, so that declarations are never impromptu. They're always prepared by officials of the government, and they always have the full backing of the government whenever they are made. Whatever fora that we go to, whatever is said is always a position of the government and sanctioned by the government. That was no different. The fact that people don't get the information, I don't know, maybe we are somewhat to be blamed for it. But this is an issue that I have been dealing with. Ministry of Foreign Affairs has been dealing with it continuously. The whole question of the Guatemalans coming across into Belize, I dealt with that in detail in the UN some years ago, you remember? So it is not anything that we don't keep on talking about. There is a perception in Belize, in my view, there is a perception in Belize that if you are warlike, if you are bellicose, if you are violent, if you express yourself in forceful and violent terms, that you're doing well for your country, you really know standing up for your country because, but in truth and in fact, small countries that don't have any defense capability really and who don't have any defense agreement can't afford to be bellicose. The last thing we can do is to behave as if we are big and bad. That gets people upset, it gets people angry, and if they take us on seriously, we can't defend ourselves. So small countries have to be diplomatic. You have to be cerebral. You have to use your brain as opposed to your brawn, because you don't have brawn. You don't. And so that is how we proceed with this matter.
As for Morales' response, saying that the summit was not the forum for Vega's statements, Elrington says that he has his own constituency to be responsible to, and so they may not always see eye to eye.
You have to appreciate that we see things differently. The president has his own constituency to be responsible to, and we have our own constituency. The summit of the ACS really is a political organization. It's an organization where you bring up these issues, and what the Deputy Prime Minister simply stated was that our both civilians and military personnel were being intercepted by armed Guatemalan personnel, military personnel. And that was of recent vintage. This has been happening for maybe about a year and a half now. And we cannot countenance it because the mid-channel of the Sassoon constitutes our southern border. We have always used it. We have been using those waterways even before 1859, both for civilian and military purposes. and therefore we cannot countenance it being restrained now, you know. And that's all the Deputy Prime Minister was saying. And that is a forum to say it in. That is a forum where you raise all these political matters. So we were quite proper to raise it there, but it was not anything that was not true. He was basically reporting, as far as I know, what had been happening in our river. All the pronouncements that had been made by the International Forum was to support that. They basically support that we live in harmony, peaceful coexistence, and they support that we take the matter to the ICJ. That cannot cause any negative, because you heard the Guatemalan president himself say that the matter should be dealt with at the ICJ. He was of the view that maybe that was not a forum that we should use, but really and truly, that is a forum. That's where you have these organizations. These are organizations where you do political discussions. And so it is not our view that we did anything that was wrong. And I sort of regretted that he took the view that maybe we should not have raised it there, but we have got to raise these issues in the forum that we think it needs to be raised.
The state leaders were in Havana, Cuba for the 7th Summit of the Association of Caribbean States. Part of Vega's presentation reads, quote, "The ACS is our neighborhood. Today we sit at a table with family. Families will have differences, but the blood, history, and common interests, and our shared desire to make the lives of our people better form an unshakable glue at the very foundation of this family we so dearly refer to as the Association of Caribbean States. It is in this spirit, Mr. Chairman, that Belize now finds it necessary to call on our brothers and sisters in the region to be aware that it is being seriously exercised at this time by the recent and very troubling shift in the foreign policy of our neighbor and closest trading partner, Guatemala. This is in relation to the centuries-old territorial dispute which we inherited from colonial days. The shift in foreign policy manifests itself in the potentially dangerous practices by armed Guatemalan military personnel to prevent Belizean citizens, military and civilian, from their traditional free and unimpeded ingress and egress of the Sarstoon River, the mid-channel of which constitutes the southern boundary of my country. This boundary was agreed upon in the Boundary Convention of 1859 between Great Britain and the Republic of Guatemala. This right of ingress and egress has been exercised without let or hindrance from the mid-19th century. Indeed, the Belize military routinely utilizes the said river, for the changing of the troops, to reprovision our southernmost military base, which to date is only accessible by river. Our fisher folk in the south, among others, also utilize the river as well to earn their living. This new posture on the part of our neighbor Guatemala poses a grave threat to the preservation of our peaceful coexistence, and it is a threat to stability in our hemisphere. It constitutes a clear and existential threat to our sovereignty and territorial integrity. It is also in direct contravention of our commitment in paragraph 2 of SELEC's proclamation of January 29, 2014, which articulates, quote, "Our permanent commitment to solve dispute through peaceful means with the aim of uprooting forever threat or the use of force. Under these circumstances and given the seriousness of the situation, Belize calls upon the members of this august organization to join with the countries of the ACP and the Commonwealth in urging both parties to fully abide by their agreement on the framework of negotiations and confidence-building measures of 2005, which commits both countries to refrain from the threat or use of force and lays out a verification process to address border incidents." End of quote. As far as the media is concerned, this is the first time such a bold and firm presentation has been made on behalf of Belize by our government officials at such a forum abroad. The Organization of American States is looking to launch the investigation into the shooting death of the 13-year-old Guatemalan child who was killed in the Chicabul area of the Cayo district. Foreign Minister Wilfred Elmington explained where the process is currently at.
What happened is that we sent a letter asking them to do that, telling them we would wish for them to get it done. I'm told that they are waiting from a letter from the Guatemalans requesting the same. And as soon as they get that from the Guatemalans, then I think they will be able to be more positive on that. But I do know they have made inquiries and they have gotten offers of assistance, I think, from the Americans. I know definitely from the Mexicans to send forensic people to help us in the process.
The Guatemalan miner Julio Rene Alvarado was shot in April when he was with his 11-year-old brother and father on Belizean territory illegally planting pumpkin seeds. This evening, around 5 o'clock, there was a shootout on Vernon Street where it is suspected that one male individual from a gang fired shots at another male individual from a rival gang. The police have apprehended 2 people who they suspect to be the intended victim and the shooter. Assistant Commissioner of Police Chester Williams was on scene and spoke with Love News.
Well, from what we have been made to understand is that there were 2 individuals who had an encounter on Mopan Street. And one of the individuals took out a firearm and fired 2 shots at the other one, but thankfully he missed. Police were in the area and responded immediately, and they saw the suspect running away with the firearm in his hands, and he was pursued by the police. And police fired warning shots at him, but he did not stop. He eventually made good his escape, but it was later on apprehended by the police in the nearby area. Currently, we have the person who was the intended victim, who we're trying to get a statement from at this time in respect to the incident, and we also have the suspect who actually fired the shots at that individual. So we have both persons with us, and we will continue our investigation from there.
Williams also spoke about the presumed motive behind the shooting.
Within this area, we have a division. There was one gang, the Mayflower gang, what was known then, and that gang have now split into 2. We now have the Bannock Street and the Mayflower gang. So it is apparently it's a dispute between the 2. We have been doing our best to see how we can mitigate things between these 2 different faction groups. And it has been working, and we'll see what we can do as of today again to be able to find out what went wrong between the 2 of them, so we can see how we could mend fences between them so that we could avoid this sort of incident within this area. Well, I would want to think it is, and we will be dialoguing with the groups to see what we can do to assist in mending the disputes between them, and that process is already underway. I must say that I have a very good relationship with both fractions, and I am sure that the relationship I have with them will be able to assist in mending whatever currently exists between the 2 groups.
Police are still processing the scene to find the weapon used in the shooting. Last week, the People's United Party made a trip to the Sarstoon in the form of an educational venture with the participation of the party's officials and parliamentarians. Opposition leader John Roseno had told Love News that the Prime Minister was informed of their intention. Incidentally, there were no Guatemalan armed forces blocking them from entering, and the trip went without a hitch. However, the media found out today that while they were not visible on the Sarstoon, the Guatemalans were watching the opposition's movements.
I not only was told that, I was told that by word of mouth by the Foreign Minister of Guatemala, and I was shown the boats. I think there were 2 boats going around, and because the Guatemalans had photographed them, they did not see the drone, but the drone was on top photographing every move they made. And Guatemalans do it. They knew they were going. But I think they're moving to the point where they want to really normalize the situation. That's my view. I don't think they are happy with the status quo. They want to normalize the relationship. That is the instructions we got from the OAS. That is the undertaking we gave to the OAS, that we will seek to normalize, and they are trying to do it in the best way they can. That's my sense. So they were happy to tell me that, look, the PUP went there and there were no incidents.
With the revelation that the Guatemalans were watching from the sidelines, and they did have prior knowledge of the PUP's trip, it does beg the question whether permission was sought and granted to access the Sarstoon River, which is why they were not blocked. Or perhaps it was a case where the talk of peaceful resolution is coming to fruition. Minister Elrington says from the part of the ministry, no permission was sought.
You could tell me that you allow me to do it, but if I'm exercising my right, it doesn't matter what you say. The important thing is that I am able to go and come without let or hindrance. If you want to say that, boy, I'm allowing you, and you don't interfere with me, and I go and I come as I like. It's fine. Makes you feel good that you believe that you are allowing me. It makes me feel good to know that I can go and come as I like. My understanding is that thing is going to get back to normal. That
So-
there is not going to be this traditional position of stopping people. We're trying to move away from that, and that's why we want to have that the thing resort to normalcy. That's what we're working towards. I never told them that. I don't know how they got that. I never told them that. I had no part of that. I don't know what UP told them that.
No.
I never told them that.
Did the Foreign Affairs Ministry send any missive?
Absolutely not. I never saw none. I was traveling, but I'm sure none was said. I'm sure none was said. It is not my position, and it will never be my position, that we have to ask to use our own waters. That is a no-no. And that is the position that we have been taking from day one. This is our right, this is our entitlement, we're going to use it, come back. We have difficulty when you seek to stop us, and we have to take necessary measures to try to obviate that. That is the position that we are taking.
Opposition leader John Bersenio had noted that the trip was made in order to have the party officials provided with a visual of the area for any further discussions that may arise. While the Hickory turtle is considered a delectable dish, there are regulations that come when catching these turtles. The Fisheries Department in Belize City made a huge bust today. Acting on information received, the officers caught 2 men, one in Ladyville Village and one in Biscayne Village, with 3 and 13 turtles respectively. Fisheries Officer Rigoberto Quintana spoke about the bust.
We have been leading information that we receive from the public in general, no? And these persons are persons of interest for the past 2 weeks. We have been tracking down the illegal operations that they were doing in the Belize River, Black Creek area. And today we managed to arrest 2 persons, Mr. Goldburn Seguro and Mr. Gilberto Seguro. Operations this afternoon, Fisheries Officer intercepted a white vehicle by Ladyville, by the Lords Bank junction. There they found 3 hickeys in that vehicle. So that is what we are processing today, and apparently the 2 of them are undersized.
Okay.
The other operation, following more leads, the officers went to the Biscayne area, where the same person, Goldburn Seguro, and his relative live, and there the officers found 13 more turtles. We are processing the evidence now, and they also found hickety nets, which are also prohibited.
There is a closed season for the turtle. The turtle can be caught, but there are specific regulations that come with catching them. Quintana told us about these regulations.
Hickety is one of the species those that we find in the region Belize, Guatemala, and Mexico, and also Honduras, and it's in the Appendix 2 of the Endangered Species Act. So in Belize we have laws that protect them. We have a closed season during the month of May, and we also have the open season. People can only have 3, but we also have size limit for females. Females have to be within 15.2 and 17.2 inches total length. Since these turtles are critically endangered in the region, we have laws also that prohibit the buy and sale of turtles. So this is just for traditional consumption for the local residents. No, that's why we're enforcing our laws, and we have stepped up enforcement operations during the dry season. No, we have for the past month, I think we have confiscated at least 6 hickety nets in the rivers, and we were successful with this one.
After the turtles are measured, offenses that were committed will determine the charges. Quintana spoke about the charges that should apply.
We have various types of fines that we would, we hope that we will lay some charges. We have fine, for example, for the possession of the hickety net, it's a $500. For illegal size hickety, possession of illegal size is $2,000. There's also another charge for having more than 3 turtles, another $2,000, and We also can request the magistrate to cancel the license of these individuals.
Quintana spoke to Love News about what will become of the turtles after the men are charged.
We are working together with the Be Free Foundation in the Toledo district. They are doing breeding trials with Hickory, and they have been successful thus far, and probably will look at donating those turtles for the breeding program. They have some artificial breeding ponds that they have created, and up to last year they were successful in hatching some Hickory turtles. And these ones are mostly females, so that's good for us.
The department was unable to say at the time if the men actually have licenses to catch these turtles. Last week we told you of a meeting, or that is, Minister Patrick Faber was sworn in this afternoon as the Deputy Prime Minister at the Belize House in Belmopan, Cayo District. Faber told the media this afternoon that he has plans of hard work in an effort to reach his goal of leading the country as the Prime Minister. Faber also spoke of the evident division in the UDP in the weeks leading to the convention for the first Deputy Party Leader.
In this position as Deputy Party Leader, I intend to work. I intend to not sit on my hands, and I intend to make sure that all who are concerned in the party, who will have any say in what goes on when the leadership race comes around, they will be certain that I am the better person, I am the best person, because I will work. And that, as I've always said to people, is not just talk on my part. If you check my record, you'll see that that is the case. According to what we agreed to on March 20th in Dangriga, there will be a convention in January of 2020. But as you know, that is not necessarily, it doesn't have to be a contested convention. And I am hoping that after all that I will do in collaboration with others in the party, of course, who are after the same goal that I am after, to win those 2020 general elections, that there will be no question, and in fact, when we get to that point, it will be uncontested. A little while ago, when I exited the cabinet room and you asked about my colleagues, and I told you that all was well. They all accept that I am the new deputy leader of the party. They all accept that I am now the new deputy prime minister of the country. And in fact, things have improved tremendously from last week when you were camped out in front of the cabinet room as well. And I expect that things will continue. If there is anything, you persist that there is still something under the surface. I'm telling you that by the time we get to that 2020 convention, there will not be that kind of feeling at all, not even a remnant of it remaining. And I'm confident that we will, over these 4 years, work together to bring about the kind of environment that will see victory for our party in 2020. You know as well as I know that I have no such authority, that in fact it is the Prime Minister who designates portfolios. You know that he has had tremendous confidence in me in the Ministry of Education. You know that I am extremely happy to serve as Belize's Minister of Education, and I will be blunt with you. The only other portfolio that I would want, I can't get until 2020, and so I'm quite satisfied with where I am now.
The swearing-in was presided over by Belize's Governor-General, His Excellency Sir Colville Young. Last week, we told you of a meeting held post-cabinet where some demands or requests were brought before the Prime Minister involving the Deputy Prime Minister's post, as well as that of the Minister of Lands, Godwin Hulse. Since his taking over lands, there have been reports that Hulse's cabinet colleagues are unhappy of his portfolio and have been working at getting him out, citing that he was not elected. We spoke with Hulse this morning, who informed us that after learning of the requests made to the Prime Minister, he made the decision to confront them at today's meeting.
Quite frankly, heard it on Love FM, much to my consternation a bit, that in fact there was this move to unseat me. Just for the public, first of all, so that we are very clear that all ministers are appointed by the Governor-General on the recommendation of the Prime Minister. All of us are sworn in on the same day and we get our same letters pattern, and we work with the ministry we are assigned. But nevertheless, there is still a feeling in Belize about elected and unelected ministers, even though there are really no such thing. There are elected representatives from the House who are appointed as ministers and senators who are appointed as ministers. I happen to be the only senator so far. Last term, there were 4 of us. That's the background. So yes, I was appointed by the Governor General on the recommendation of the Prime Minister. And so my first reaction is, let's go see the Prime Minister to see where I stand. And of course, he's 100% fully in support of my position, with no intention to make any change. But while we don't give secrets out of cabinet, I will say that today I undertook to raise the matter just for my own peace of mind and that of my department, and because there's a lot of rumors running around, and so just that people know that in the cabinet today I raised the matter to get clearance from my cabinet colleagues, and to a man, absolutely nobody objected. Nobody objected. And the Prime Minister reiterated that for the foreseeable future, as he said, as long as we're there, the status quo remains where I'm concerned.
Hull says that while there were no objections made today, he did concede that there have been pressures upon him regarding his post as the head of the Lands Department.
I can't say I agree. I have put that frankly to colleagues, that my position in this ministry is to do it with dignity, honesty, integrity, and to proceed as impeccably as we can. And as I said, no person, and the Prime Minister afforded everybody a comment, and no person to a man objected. I operate from a position of facts and a position of being straight. I don't pretend, I don't play the fool. So as far as I'm concerned, all those undercurrents may be running and people may have their feelings. Just simply say it to my face or come up to me and say this is the problem, and I dare anybody to do that.
How would you characterize the mood in the cabinet? This is the second cabinet you've been in. The Prime Minister has 2 issues. He has a Deputy Prime Minister who 11 ministers opposed his election. In the convention done, majority rules, okay. And he also has a minister of the war chest, the natural resources, who is unelected and immune apparently to political persuasion and pressure. How does that affect Mr. Barrow's management of the cabinet?
Well, everything in Belize, Jules, is a 7-day wonder. And the 7 days passed. Today's mood was great, cordial, and good.
Senator Godwin Hulls took over the Lands Department in November 2015 when the UDP won their 3rd consecutive term in office. In October 2013, the Prime Minister Dean Barrow referred to the Lands Department as a hotbed of corruption. It has been an area of concern for many years, as there have been under-table deals and cases of fraud, a status quo that Minister Godwin Hulls has been trying to change via a new system.
Since January, when I began to deal with instruments, to date I have issued 1,414 instruments. That is a combination of leases, transfers, purchase certificates, all sorts of things. And in some of those cases, you sign 5 and 6 times. So if you do the math, you'll see that I've signed over 5,000 times. And we continue to do this. But there are some criteria that I have established that will never change. And that is that Belizeans who get parcels of land, it must be done with dignity and integrity. We are not going to countenance fraud in the ministry. I am going to make sure that when Rene Trujillo applies, the person who gets that piece of land is her, or Jules Vasquez, it's him, and not somebody using somebody's name. I am totally against people making a real estate deal out of social rate lands. You get a piece of land on a key for $1,000, you flip it for $50,000 and you come back again. Those kinds of things. I am against all the mistakes where people are stepping on other people's property. People have permission to purchase, then somebody buys over them. All of those sorts of things we're trying to clean up. And it goes back a long time. So we had to put in steps to make sure those things are okay. And in that case, clearly some things have slowed down, but I dare say we're cleaning up and very fast. And there are lots of persons whose applications have been in there 4 or 5 years who have now gotten their lease because it's clean, it's good, and they can proceed. So that's where we are.
Hulls went on to state that there were several questionable cases in the process when he took over, and he has been able to stop them and carry out an in-depth investigation of persons applying for land. The minister also added that in some cases he does site visits.
Well, that was a system that existed, yes. A lot of people just applied and then it came all up and it went through the system. It goes to the minister, and the minister, of course, will sign the transfer, or he'll sign whatever comes to him from his officers. and then that continues. The difference, and so I'm not saying that is anything untoward. I'm simply saying how the system works. You want to be clear what you're saying. Fraud would be perpetrated, but remember there's a whole system that brings that file to the minister. I'm not saying it can't still happen under me, It's except the difference is that I am extremely vigilant to that sort of thing, and because I am so cognizant of it, that I want to make sure as best as I can that in fact you are the person who got it. That is where I go the extra mile. I'm not sure other ministers are going to go around to find out if the person lives there and all that. That's the kind of thing I do. I'll simply say there were hundreds of agents floating around lands when I got there. Lots of them politically connected. All sorts of people tearing through the place. In fact, to use a term that people used to use, it's like a bazaar. Go over there now, you don't see nobody. You don't see nobody floating through. You don't see no crowd. You don't see no agents running through. In fact, I see people every Wednesday and Thursday, and I see them by appointment which are made. The place is calm. It is very calm. So those things have sort of ceased down for sure. But yes, a lot of agents run around, and I'm sure they were politically connected.
As for transparency, Holt says the information of land transactions will be made public in the near future.
The natural resources is the resources of the nation. I am the ultimate custodian, and I'm going to make sure that the nation is duly informed of any change. And in fact, when I took the ministry, I saw 3 pieces of land only. Land in the public domain, called national lands. Lands in transition, which is moving from public to private. That is a temporary permission to use and enjoy. And lands in private hand, which is a permanent permission to use and enjoy. And so that movement has to be seamless. And so if you're moving from national lands to land in transition, and then somebody else will move on the same parcel from national land to land in transition, that can happen. That's a duplication, and our system should spot that. If you are already land in transition, which is a lease, and you're complying with all the conditions, and somebody steps on that to move to private land, we should be able to spot that, because that can't happen. It's the one piece of land, and that is what we're trying to avoid, and that is why we're putting in these systems. I have no problem in telling you who, when, and where, because one of the things I knew is that transparency resides in the public domain. That is why when I was I am the substantive, but the actual functional Minister of Immigration, I made sure that for everybody who became a citizen, the name was published. Because it's nothing to hide. It's like getting married. Somebody should know you're married, and it's now no secret. And so if you're going to be a citizen, the public need to know. I don't care which nationality you are. And I was happy to see that you could have reproduced that in your news of all the people who were sworn in, because it's nothing to hide. It's the same thing. There's nothing to hide who gets a piece of land. In fact, that is what is going to help us. Because if you got your piece of land and everybody knows you got a piece of land, and suddenly you see somebody else at the same parcel, red flag can be waved. That is what is going to help us. No, that is public knowledge.
According to Holtz, he has processed applications that have proven legitimate and were set aside for about 5 years. 44-year-old Irvin Renault, who was given 2 life sentences today by Justice Adolph Lucas after he was found guilty of the murder of 39-year-old businessman David Longsworth and 42-year-old security guard Edgar Ayala. The sentences are to run concurrently, so Renault will only serve 1 life sentence. The incident occurred shortly after 6 p.m. on November 30, 2010 at Texaco gas station located at mile 2 on the Philip Goldson Highway. The evidence adduced by the Crown revealed that Renault arrived at the gas station in a taxi car and shot Ayala first, then Longsworth, who was in his car with his wife and their 6-year-old son. 3 eyewitnesses testified that they saw when Renault shot. Renault gave the police a caution statement in which he said he shot Ayala because he thought that Ayala was going for his gun, and he shot Longsworth because of a drug deal that had gone sour. The statement was admitted as evidence. Renault had taken the police to an area by the river in Roaring Creek where he had buried the gun he had stolen from Ayala. The gun was used as exhibit. Renault had given his girlfriend the gun he used to kill Ayala and Longsworth, and he had told her to hide it. But his girlfriend handed over the gun to the police and it was used as exhibit. Renault testified and denied that he committed the offenses. He said he went to the gas station to withdraw money from the ATM. Renault was represented by attorney Alifa Elrington, while the Crown was represented by Crown Counsel Shanice Lovell, Shireen Rodriguez, and Janelle Tillett. A road traffic accident in Houston, Texas took the life of 1 Belizean and left another injured. The newscast on ABC 13 reported today that around 12 midday, there was a collision involving two vehicles on the westbound lanes of West Mount Houston. The information we have is that the male person who perished in the accident is from the Carrizal district, while the other injured is a well-known Belize City personality. The Coordinating Group of Pesticides Control Board of the Caribbean, CGPC, held its 21st meeting under the theme A Changing Climate, A Changing World, Responsible Pest and Pesticides Management, Our Responsibility. The group met to address issues such as pesticides used in the Caribbean, which are harmful to the environment and crops. Dr. Vayante Lopez, Plant and Protection Officer of the Sub-Regional Office for the Caribbean, spoke about the meeting.
Since 2009, FAO has been assisting CARICOM member states in meeting their obligations under a number of multilateral environmental agreements, or MEAs as they are called, in African, Caribbean, and Pacific countries, or ACP. The project comprises of two components: support to the regional MEA hubs. In the Caribbean, this would be the CARICOM Secretariat, and support to the implementation of specific MEAs. FAO executes a subcomponent of the program titled the Cleanup of Obsolete Pesticides, Pesticides Management and Sustainable Pest Management, and one of the activities carried out in collaboration with the CGPC over the past few years was the production of an inventory of obsolete pesticide stocks. This revealed that about 300 tons of obsolete stocks have accumulated in these small Caribbean islands and countries. So in November 2013, an FAO CGPC proposal titled Disposal of Obsolete Pesticides, including POPs, Promotion of Alternatives and Strengthening Pesticides Management in the Caribbean, was submitted to the Global Environment Facility, or GEF, for funding, and this proposal was accepted. The full-size project, valued at over $4.3 million US dollars, was approved in the latter part of 2015 and was operationalized last month with the recruitment of the project coordinator.
Dr. Daulat Badran, country representative of IICA Belize, and Ricardo Thompson, principal agriculture officer of Belize, spoke about the necessity of using pesticides responsibly.
Agrochemicals have made a tremendous impact in boosting crop production, which has translated in better livelihoods of farmers and consumers alike. But despite the long-known success in the fight against insects and other pest crop diseases vectors, pesticides face many serious challenges where their inherent properties, use, and environmental safety. One of the steepest barriers to effective pesticide use and management is that typical high dosage amounts of pesticides that are used to obtain the desired killing effect of pests that may lead to higher bioaccumulations and toxicity levels in the environment.
There is no harmless or riskless product or resource. If we're talking about inputs, we're talking about food, we're talking about the environment, water, whatever it is, one way or another, these forces are shaping and affecting the inputs that we use, the food that we consume, and the environment that we live in. Pesticide use and management represents one subset of activities that are critical to the use of resources and that are critical to the use of products. Pesticide use and management falls within the domain of public policy. The role of government is extremely important. And the role of government in its regulatory framework needs to base its decisions on, in my view, and has been established, and many of you know this, on three key aspects. And that is the scientific basis for regulating the use and management of pesticide, the legal framework, and the institutional mechanisms that have to be put in place to facilitate the process.
Belize assumed presidency of the Pesticides Control Board this year. President Miriam Ochaeta Sarut, also the Registrar of Pesticides of Belize, spoke about the priorities in mind for this year.
As the current chair of the CGPC, as you know, the chair was handed over from Dominica to Belize this year. My goal as the chair of the CGPC is to take a look at as a region take a look at emerging issues related to sustainable agriculture and pesticide use, especially looking at the adverse effects of pesticides on human health and the environment. And as the CGPC chair now, it is my goal to improve on the level of communication between the member delegates. Networking is an area that I believe needs to be improved, especially when we're looking at these emerging issues, meaning if you have a regulatory decision that's been made in another region of the world, as a grouping, as a regional grouping, we could be carrying out the necessary assessments and evaluations to address these issues from a regional perspective, harnessing our individual capacities or the capacities that are within the different agencies in the different countries. I believe that we would be able to move faster in terms of regulatory actions in our region.
Mentioned in the meeting was that Caribbean countries have become a depository for unwanted pesticides in other parts of the world. For that reason, the CGPC is looking to ban some pesticides that have been used in the region for decades but have been deemed harmful to the people and environment. Yesterday, we told you about the Managed Access Program and the expansion it received by the Cabinet. The initial project began with the zones of Port Honduras and Glover's Reef Atoll. The new expansion covers the entire territorial waters of Belize, which will then consist of 9 different zones. Zone 7 of the 9 is the Lighthouse Reef Atoll, which falls under the management of Belize Audubon Society. Love News spoke to Shane Young, Marine Protected Area Manager, who gave their sentiments on the expansion.
Looking at the success of the 2 pilot sites, Port Honduras and Glover's Reef, our stakeholders were a strong advocate to have Lighthouse Reef Atoll and Turniff Atoll likewise declared or be a part of this managed access. The Fisheries Department, in consultation with co-managers and partners and stakeholders, carried out some consultation. The Fisheries Department carried out some consultation with us and hear the feedback and requests from our stakeholders, the fishermen, and basically the sentiment was that they support this managed access. Our stakeholders, in essence, now were strong advocate of it, and the Belize Audubon Society, as partner and as stakeholder at Lighthouse Reef Atoll, supported this initiative and supported the initiative of the Fisheries Department in getting this managed access rollout across Belize. Our focus is Lighthouse Reef Atoll, which is Zone 7. The Belize Audubon Society at the rollout will support its fishermen, its stakeholders in this rollout throughout the next couple of months.
Young says they are working with their stakeholders for a smooth transition of the program and licenses.
We're working closely with our stakeholders for them to settle in nice with this smooth rollout. We want this transition of this turf and this special license be as smooth as possible. And of course, we'll have little glitches here and there, but hopefully we could address those as they come along. There's no issue at this point. Our stakeholders, the fishermen, they're a strong advocate of this managed access, and they're looking forward for a smooth rollout of the managed access. Based on the success of the two pilot sites, both Port Honduras and Glover's Reef, certainly we expect that there will be sustainable fishery, and it will allow the fishermen to be stewards of their fishing grounds. They will have that ownership, and certainly they will assist Belize Audubon Society and Fisheries Department in ensuring that law and order is established at their fishing grounds, their zones, their turf.
The expansion goes into effect on June 15. Several stakeholders gathered at the George Price Center in Belmopan for the 4th National Climate Outlook Forum. Presentations were made by the National Meteorological Service based on the weather outlook, while other presentations were done on the climate forecast on a regional level. Meteorologist Catherine Cumberbatch spoke to Love News on the local report.
This is a forum where we have a stakeholders consultation for enhancing the utility of seasonal climate outlook forecast. And what we presented here this morning to our stakeholders was the rainfall forecast for the wet season, which entail this is divided into two parts: the June, July, August, which is the first part of the wet season, and the second half, which is the September, October, November forecast. And what we are projecting for those two periods is for the JJA, we are going for below normal for the northern and the west central inland part of the country, while the rest of the country is going for normal rainfall. And for the September, October, and November rainfall outlook, we are projecting normal rainfall for the northern and west central part of the country and above normal for the rest of the country. And when it comes to temperature, we are projecting that the daytime temperatures will be hotter from June to November, and the nighttime temperatures would be warmer from June to November. And when we look at our drought outlook, we see that the projection shows that drought will be alleviated over much of the country, except for the west central part of the country. And that would be both in the 6 months outlook and the 12 months outlook. The 12-month outlooks ends on the end of November 2016. So we have a drought watch for the west central part of the country right up until the end of November. And when we are talking about drought watch, it means that drought is possible. There's a possibility that you could have drought because of the deficiency of rainfall that we have been receiving in the past and what we are projected for the future.
With the presence of several participants from different sectors, Cumberbatch spoke of what is to be learnt from this forum.
We have different stakeholders. I said we have stakeholders from the agricultural sector, the water sector, energy, national disaster, health, and agriculture. The only sector that is not present here today is tourism. And what we hope that these stakeholders will leave from here is that the information that was presented to them, that they will utilize it in some way or somehow to help them serve their sector better, whether it be more efficient or maybe they will have to change their way of doing things. But the information that we presented here is for them to enhance the utility of the seasonal product that we presented to them in their different sectors.
The forum had the participation of over 40 participants. Adult and continuing education remains a high priority of the Ministry of Education in Toledo and other districts of Belize. We hear more in this report from correspondent Paul Mahong. For not being able to bring you that story due to a technical issue. The Belize Red Cross is preparing 12 volunteers to become instructors. The 4-day training is to prepare the volunteers to become certified cardiopulmonary resuscitation instructors. Love News spoke to the Director of Volunteer and Youth at the Belize Red Cross, David Supers.
We're embarking on a 4-day training for our instructors. We're trying to get new instructors for the Belize Red Cross because we see that first aid is really picking up and a lot of persons are demanding it. So we're trying to get more instructors trained throughout the country. So we have 12 persons from around the country being trained this week. We're stressing a lot on CPR and other first aid techniques so that we can train more persons to save lives, because the purpose of first aid is to save lives and to make sure that everyone is equipped with it, because it can help at home, at work, or just out when you're out somewhere. So that's one of the reasons why we're trying to embark on this training right now.
While CPR is the main focus of the training, Silvers told us about other techniques and methods that will be taught for the rest of the week.
They will actually be doing some teaching assignments so we can see and give them corrective feedback on how all of the topics. It's CPR, it's burns, injuries to muscles, bones, and joints, choking, a lot of different topics in first aid. And then they'll be given opportunities to teach back to us, and let's see where they're at in terms of their instruction techniques. And then from there, they pass out on Friday. Hopefully, all of them pass.
At the end of the training, the participants will be monitored for an extra 6 months.
All of our participants are Red Cross volunteers from throughout our branches countrywide, and they had a strict application process that we vetted. The steering committee of the first aid vetted, and we then went and did some pre-training to see if everyone is up to standard. And from there, we're now here at our 4-day training, trying to get as much instructors as possible to serve us. Well, there's a 3 to 6 months probation period, and then after that, once where they'll be training, but they'll be training alongside a instructor trainer like myself, and then from there they'll be given a certificate once they matriculate in the correct way.
The training ends on Friday. Tomorrow is World Oceans Day, and to celebrate, Oceana Belize and Belize Audubon Society have teamed up on an old initiative called the Green Bag. The initiative is to bring awareness of an eco-friendly environment with the help of the reusable grocery bags. Alyssa Carnegie, Communications Director of Oceana Belize, spoke about World Oceans Day.
World Oceans Day is celebrated worldwide by individuals and organizations on June 8th, tomorrow. And so the theme under which everyone is celebrating this year is Healthy Oceans, Healthy Planet. To commemorate World Oceans Day locally, Oceana is spearheading what we call the Better Bag Initiative, where we're encouraging locals to use reusable bags, and at stores where they would be able to qualify for discounts for bringing those reusable bags.
As we said, the initiative isn't a new one by the Belize Audubon Society. Doris Chuck, Environmental Education Director, spoke to us about it.
We started our greening initiative back in 2009, and one of the products of that program was the green bags. We still have them in stock today, and we continue to promote them. We're happy to be partnering with Oceana this year to celebrate World Oceans Day, because the more organizations and the more Belizeans that get involved, then it becomes a habit for people to take their reusable bags to the supermarket. We know that we have a big problem in Belize in terms of solid waste management, but locals can make a big difference if we all join in. And so by taking your bags to the supermarket, you don't have to get a lot of plastics, and then we reduce the environmental impact. What happens to these plastics? They end up at the dump site, or they end up in our drains. They eventually make their way out to the oceans, and that has impacts on our marine ecosystems. They might mistake it for food, and aesthetically it's not beautiful. We're a country that's promoting ecotourism, and so we want our visitors to come and see Belize for its natural beauty.
The bags will be on sale for $5 tomorrow at the Belize Audubon Society office at 60 North Park Street in Belize City. The first 30 persons to arrive will receive their bags free. Our thought conditioner for today comes from Buddha. It reads, and we quote, "Thousands of candles can be lit from a single candle, and the life of the candle will not be shortened. Happiness never decreases by being shared." End of quote. This has been the Evening News on Dom Television. We invite you to log on to our website at www.lovefm.com for transcript of our news stories. Thank you for watching the news. I am Julia Carrillo. Have a great evening.